They've got it figured out, man. That's what I'm saying. Iceland's the place you go if you have just like no qualms with anything at all.
Have you seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
No.
So I thought that's what you were going for, something like there. Is it Secret Life of? Yeah, it's The Secret Life of Walter.
None of my life philosophies have anything to do with Ben Stiller.
Really?
You're living life wrong.
I guess so. Welcome to the Roundtable Podcast, everybody. How's it going?
All right. Hey.
That's the way we want to do it.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 right there.
That whole introduction? Are you telling me that was the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 of intros to the podcast?
No, well, yes, but also...
Broken and terrible.
I linked you a picture of Ben Stiller from The Secret Life of Walter Mitty on a longboard.
You know I can't look at that right now.
He's discovering what it means to be an adult as a 45-year-old male with a six-figure job.
I wonder how that'll turn out for him.
I think he's probably going to fuck the lady he wants to fuck at the end.
It's just every single Ben Stiller movie, it's just, all right, who does he want to fuck? Let's find her, get her in at the end of the movie. Nick's not here. Rockley's smile is missing from this particular episode, but we hope to entertain and enthrall you all the same. We've got a few awesome topics to talk about today. We're going to do Baer's Weird Games, which is a terrible knockoff of Nick's Weird Games that nobody's going to enjoy.
Yeah.
In this 2007 Xbox release, you
Halo
fight
3.
the Covenant. It's almost like that, to be honest. We're going to be talking Humble Bundle today, more particularly what's going on with Humble in general as a business entity. We want to discuss Half-Life 3 with you guys because...
We've played it.
Believe it or not, it's real and it's coming. Don't. Let's not start that off that way.
You excited so many people.
I know. No, I'm sorry. There's something substantial to talk about, but it's not what we all hope it is.
Substantial might be a little bit of a stretch, but
there's something comparatively substantial to talk about, but other than that, there's not.
One of the top 10 Half-Life 3 based news stories of the year happened this month.
That's really accurate. And then Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. It's the new bomb defusing game that's sweeping the nation, and not in that way. Ask Roundtable coming up later on as well, and we're just gonna, bebop our way to success.
All right, you gave me a great idea.
What's up?
We come. You know what the Swiffer did for the mop?
I have an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, you never see anybody with a mop anymore, with like a bucket full of soapy water. It's always let me get the Swiffer. Yeah, exactly. Up here in the 1%, we buy the Swiffer detergent pads, and then we sweep, or we have our people do it. But what if we do that? We do what Swiffer did for the mop. Do you look at me, Mathis, when I'm talking to you?
Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
This is important.
We do for the broom what Swiffer did for the mop, and then we say it's the cleaning craze that's sweeping the nation.
Oh my God.
And we're going to call it the vacuum cleaner.
How has this not happened yet?
Right until the end, you had me.
Yeah.
Right until the end. What do you got there, Mr. Orange Straw? Is that a fucking themed straw for your pumpkin spice latte?
No, that's just Dunkin' Donuts. Straws are always orange.
They're not always orange.
That is bullshit.
You went through an effort,
are.
man.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Orange straws, man.
What color are... I even put color without a U. Dunkin' Donuts.
Gotta get an American.
Humble Bundle has unfortunately laid off a fifth of its staff after what only could be described as an aggressive expansion model. They've had to lay off, looked like about 12 people from their team. They recently, in addition to laying off a few folks, have introduced a new Humble monthly bundle, games sent to your inbox every single month. It's currently available to sign up for. The first one will be happening in November. It's a model of $12 a month. And as far as I can tell, it's just sort of a random game. There's not really any sort of rhyme or reason to it. You're sort of rolling the dice on a $12 subscription service to Humble Bundle, which, it sort of seems like you're just trusting them based on name and recognition alone of what they've had going on in the past. Also giving a free copy of Legend of Grimrock 2 to those who subscribe for the first month of the service. So certainly definitely not a bad deal there if you're looking just to benefit from that alone. But in general, it's interesting to look at the way things have been going for Humble Bundle recently. Of course, they're always changing up the bundles. They haven't stopped doing what they've been doing for quite a while now. They've got the weekly bundle always going on. Now expanding into the books and mobile territory as well. So plenty of different things going on for this group, but unfortunately, as you can probably tell, not enough to keep their entire staff going. So, looking at what they've done recently, let's look at their actual live bundle right now. It's the Capcom bundles. It's a pretty good one.
It is. I bought it. I thought it was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pop open exactly what they've got here.
Strider, Resident Evil Revelations 2, Lost Planet 3, Bionic Commando Rearmed. Pay more than the average, you get Resident Evil Revelations 1. DMC, Resident Evil 5. Pay $15 or more, you get Resident Evil 5 DLC and Ultra Street Fighter 4.
Mm-hmm. Good deal. Really good deal. And it's not really even that much of a standout. This has kind of been what they've been offering for a while. This may be a little above average, but still, Humble has not really gone away, but they're no longer the huge... every time it seemed a big popular Humble Bundle showed up, there were tweets galore and everyone was going crazy for it.
I wonder if it's almost like it became too much of a good thing. Like when Humble came up, it wasn't all the time. It was always like once every couple of months, 3 months or something. It was like this huge indie bundle with all these huge games. And then they almost went like, well, people are loving this. Let's do one like all the goddamn time.
Yeah.
And people kind of became oversaturated or just too much of it. And then it was like, well, I'm not going to buy every single bundle now. Before it was like, well, there's only one Humble Bundle every couple of months. I'm definitely going to grab it every time it pops up. But now it's like, what? When do we see Humble Bundles? Like once every couple of weeks, once a month? Like,
yeah, I think
pretty often.
They do. I think they run them for 2 weeks at a time, and then there's maybe a week or so of lull time between the next one.
It used to be a lot longer than that, and I think that was a lot of the excitement is when a Humble was announced. Since it wasn't such a common occurrence, people were pumped. They always got it. But now, like I was saying, it's almost too much.
That
maybe?
was back when they were like a numbered thing too. You remember it was like
Humble Bundle
number four, exactly. Yeah.
But now it's just bundles all the time, and I'm just like, well, I don't care that much.
I kind of agree with Mathis. I think it's like I hesitate to say that it's Humble's fault, but I think it's like oversaturation. Like it's not just Humble Bundles coming out all the time. You also have every company that spawned as kind of like a tier 2 Humble. Like Indie Royale, and this is not insulting any of these companies. Some of them are actually, they're not all created equal, but some of them are positive, and some of them are maybe less positive or less reliable. But stuff like Groupies and Indie Royale and whatnot. There's just like there's too many games for sale at any given time that I feel like unless you're a collector, you can't possibly play them. So it's kind of like not that exciting. And it used to be that, like, if a Humble Bundle came out, there were, like, 6 marquee indie games. Like, the 6 big ones from, like, the last year and a half. And if you didn't have 2 of them, it was worth it. But now, it's like, I mean, I don't want to buy this Capcom bundle.
Yeah.
It's more like, it's a great deal on paper. But at the same time, I don't have time to play any of these games. I got other games to play. And in the time that we've been talking about this, like, 8 more games have come out. Like, I'm not going to go back and play, like, Resident Evil Revelations 1 now. I guess if you're, like, a super fan, then that's something, but...
As I watch it...
I mean, I bought it, but I was just like, maybe I'll stream some of these.
Oh, yeah, that's obviously
I will spoil it for you. You will not stream any of these. That's not going to happen.
Do some Lost Planet 3 co-op with Nick, man. I'm sure he'd be jumping on board with that.
That's just one of the games I don't care about.
As we were talking about it, it's sold over 100,000 bundles. So, I mean, with the ones that look good on paper and have a good value to offer, there's still a whole lot of people that are showing up to purchase them. I'll even say, too, like, I signed up for the Humble email notifications, and those have now just become another blind click that I just throw away, much like most of my emails. Sorry.
Right, yeah.
But... it's no longer got that niche new thing appeal. And, we can't really, again, rip on any of the other other bundle competitors, because this happens with all this newfangled stuff that pops up on the internet. Just think about the monthly box delivery subscription services, for example. There's Loot Crate, 1-Up Box, the there's Indie Box now, there's...
Indie Box looks cool.
Yeah. Indie Box does looks like the most interesting of them for me
a collector,
personally.
basically, yeah.
But
I'm curious.
yeah, I mean, Humble obviously sort of pioneered the bundle online as it stands right now, and the fact that they have experienced this drawback leads to one of two conclusions, which is to say that they over aggressively expanded, or the scene for it is dying off, or even both. And it kind of seems like it might be both. The entire idea of the bundle was sort of to provide means by which to add games to your collection that you may not have had a chance to pick up back when they were popular, or even get some of the newer stuff that you otherwise wouldn't have purchased. And there's only so many of those games that exist, and they've already mostly been bundled up. So now we're getting some repeats. I've seen quite a few repeats too, is the thing, especially with the indie packages. They seem to really like to reuse a lot of the same games in the indie bundles.
I think just linked you guys the sales numbers for every Humble Bundle that's been launched.
Oh wow!
Wow.
I'd love to be able to access that.
I feel like there's another problem, which is like game selection.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, that's why I'm not that excited. If you take a game like DMC, so DMC's in the Capcom bundle for more than the average, $8.43. That's a great price for DMC. But then I'm thinking back, DMC came out in like January of 2013.
Mm-hmm.
How many times has it been on sale on Steam?
Right.
How many times have you had the opportunity to pick it up at this price? Probably a lot. And that's not to say that. I mean, obviously you're getting more games for $8.43 as well. But like, if you wanted it, I assume you would have had it by now, unless there's somebody sitting around that was like, wow, I'm glad I didn't pick up DMC for $7.50 in the last Steam sale, because now I can pay an extra $1 and get 7 other games I don't care about at all. Like, as a developer or a publisher, I feel like the Humble Bundle is like the end of the line for your game most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, you never probably want to bundle your game until it's already done all the sales that it's going to do, or the vast majority of the sales that it's going to do regardless. Which is not to say that a Humble Bundle won't make you a lot of money, but you know people are going to be picking up your game for 1 cent and then, selling that shit to G2A or, Kinguin or something like that. Some authorized or unauthorized resellers, and you're not going to see a dime on it. So, I honestly, to some extent, I feel like maybe that's why game selection in bundles has become a little bit poorer, or at least more inconsistent. Because, like, if I was a developer and I was like, my game came out 6 months ago, I don't want to put it in a Humble Bundle. Maybe I'll make, like, a lot of money in 2 weeks, but then it'll never sell any copies again because I've, like, blown out the value curve for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking back now, it was like early 2012 that really Humble Bundle was getting its prominence and was really blowing up. I mean, this was the time when they were selling multiple hundreds of thousands of copies of each bundle, and it almost didn't even matter what was in it. They just did well regardless. So maybe that's why they keep trying to keep this up, and clearly it's not being sustained. Like, look back at what was in Humble Bundle number 4, like we all mentioned. Bit Trip,
Meat Boy one?
Yep, Super Meat Boy, Shank, Cave Story Plus, and those were basically it. And it's not even like a hugely impressive bundle, but it still sold 430,000 copies.
Humble Bundle 5 sold 600,000 with Bastion, Amnesia, Limbo, Psychonauts, Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery, Braid, Meat Boy, and Lone Survivor. Like, those are fucking great games.
Right.
It's an incredible selection, yeah.
But then you look down even just like a little further. So let's just go like the next year. So looking at Humble Bundle 8, still really, really good options, of course, but these are all starting to kind of... You're picking away at those indie titles in particular that are the standouts, that are like the holy pedestal, holy grail games of indie releases. Things like Thomas Was Alone, Little Inferno, Hotline Miami, Proteus to a certain degree, and then you start to run out of games like that. So even further down the list, you've got, of course, the Origin bundle was going to be hugely popular.
Origin was massive. So a few million?
Mm-hmm. But then you get down a little further and you start to see things like Humble Bundle for PC and Android number 8. You've got Little Inferno showing up again. You got things like Anomaly 2. That game. That was always fun to say.
To be fair, like, a lot of the numbered bundles, like their marquee bundles, are actually really good still.
Yeah.
Like, last year around this time, Humble Indie Bundle 12, SteamWorld Dig, Hammerwatch, maybe not necessarily AAA indies, but like they're up there for sure. Gunpoint is, Prison Architect for sure is, Papers, Please is, Luftrausers may or may not be, but everybody knows it. Gone Home probably is, Monaco probably is, and then you've got The Bridge and Race the Sun as well. Like that's a high quality bundle.
What
right
Humble
there.
Bundle was that?
Humble Indie Bundle 12. The problem, as I see it, is that you have to scroll through 50 bundles from 2014
Yeah,
to
well,
get
that's the
down to
problem.
it. But
I'm looking at Humble Bundle 14, which was this year, April, and only sold 163,000 copies. Pixel Piracy, Unepic, Super Splatters, Outlast, Torchlight 2, La Mulana, 140, Mirror Moon EP, Contraption Maker, and Shadow Warrior Special Edition, which I think Shadow Warrior Special Edition was the remake of that. Not the remake, it was like a remastery of that 2D shooter.
yeah.
But think about like the big hook in that bundle is probably going to be La Mulana or
Outlast.
Or Outlast, yeah.
Or Torchlight 2, which I think was excellent.
I don't know, though. Torchlight 2 is 3 years old by that point.
That's true. That's true.
I
Outlast
will
was
agree
2
that-
years old at that point, though.
Well, 14, or what was I going to say? Humble Indie Bundle 14, I do feel like is kind of an anomaly in that it has a lot of stuff that most people wouldn't be interested in.
And that was
Epic,
that was the last one that they've done so far. Yeah, that was the
Pixel
last one.
Piracy is interesting. On Epic is okay. Super Splatters is pretty good. Outlast is obviously kind of like a genre hallmark. Torchlight 2 is amazing. La Mulana, I kind of feel like everybody who's wanted to play it probably has had a chance already, but it's not a bad inclusion. 140 is like 45 minutes long. Mirror Moon EP is incomprehensible for the vast majority of people that play it, myself included. Contraption Maker's cool. Shadow Warrior, take it or leave it, but that's kind of like, for me, like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10 bundle.
Yeah.
If I may distill like years of man hours down to a single out of 10 score, that would be my score for that.
No, it is important to note, though. I really do think it lends itself well to the argument that there's only a certain amount of games you can put into these bundles over like this period of time. It's only a few years, and there's only a handful of indie games that really achieve a spotlight that would cause the bundles to start selling in huge quantities like they used to. And another valid point, too, is the fact that looking at all this data, like there's so many bundles between just these regular, normal indie bundles that are otherwise basically forgettable. I mean, they're still selling well enough, but like if you want to maintain the level of success that is required for you to keep up this sort of staffing and this sort of endeavor, then it's going to require that sort of prominence again, which it's not going to achieve with these sort of, I don't want to call them subpar, but definitely not up to the standard that they had set before offerings.
So many Humble Android bundles.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question then. What if I tasked you with making a 2015 Humble Bundle?
Yeah.
Let's say you put 5 games in it from 2015. What would you put in there?
2015. Oh,
right.
damn.
Let's do that now. I'm going to go... This is going to sound a lot like my selection of Let's Plays for my YouTube channel this year, but I think it holds water based on that alone. I'm going to put Darkest Dungeon in there for sure.
Yeah.
I think even though it releases next year officially, by the way, just literally finding out word, Darkest Dungeon has a release date. It is, let me see if I can find it again here. I think it's January 19th.
Cool.
So there you go. If you're interested in that, Darkest Dungeon full release January 19th. I'm going to throw Guild of Dungeoneering up there, actually. I think that one did.
It's a good Humble game.
Yeah, it did quite well this year, too. There's got to be a good bundle we can put together for this year.
I'm thinking you probably throw in 80 Days.
Okay.
That game is pretty sweet and a good fit for a Humble. Or a
Can
good
you imagine
fit for
getting
a
Rocket League in one of these bundles?
That would be huge,
That would be pretty great.
Assault Android Cactus is really good. I think that might be deserving of going in there.
Like Ori and the Blind Forest or
Undertale.
Undertale, yeah, I was gonna say it, but I feel like if you're the developer of Undertale and you're making like $300,000 a day right now, maybe you want to hold off on that for a little while.
Well, let's not limit ourselves though. Let's just say like any game that's come out
All
in
right,
2015,
Star
if you
Wars
could just make the
Battlefront.
best indie
Any
bundle
indie
you could.
game, right?
Yeah, any
Indie
indie game.
Keep talking and nobody explodes. I know it came out a couple days ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Just throw that in there.
fits the criteria, right?
Soma, why not? You
You could probably throw the beginner's guide in there. I bet that would fit pretty well.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I'm looking at
Cortex.
it, 2015 was a really good year for indie games.
It really was.
It has been, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe my argument is falling on deaf ears to the people who've been playing amazing indie games all year long and think, Baer, there's still a bunch left
When's
to
the
bundle
Duck game
together.
come out?
Like June, May, something like that.
So it was a 2015 game.
Yeah.
We've got a really good bundle now.
I mostly feel, though, that if you were the developer of one of these games, why would you, and like if Humble came to you and said, hey, we want to put you in a bundle, I'd be like, maybe like next year? Because I've got like, oh, wait, hello?
Well, I mean, we could even take this back. Like, I mean, think about the indie scene back in 2010, 2011. It was vastly different
Yeah.
and much smaller. So the bundles were clearly going to be of more value because the indie games were few and far between. Now you open up Steam, and like you said, like between when we started this conversation and now, like 30 indie games have released. It's tougher to sell, especially when the good indie games sell well enough by themselves now. They don't need these bundles to really push them forward at this point.
And think about how back in 2012, too, it was probably a completely different attitude you had toward that conversation. If you're a developer who's selling a game fairly well and Humble approaches you in an email and says, hey, we want to put your game in a bundle, in 2012 you would have been like, oh my God, I'm going to make $1 million. But now you're kind of like, I don't know about that right now. I think I'd kind of rather just ride the wave of my initial sales and see how long that can last.
I think it's so tenuous, like, if you're a developer. Because, like, let's say your game isn't a Binding of Isaac that's going to sell 2 million copies. But if it sells, like, 500 copies a month, you might be able to make enough money to survive and to fund another game, right? So I feel like it's really a big ask to be like, okay, I'm going to come out in a Humble Bundle 8 months after my release, and then people will know that you can get copies of this for 1 cent. They'll be around. So, like, I feel I'm not in the business, but I feel like I would rather just be like, okay, I'll sell 100 copies this month, 100 copies this month, 100 copies this month. And if I get the chance to during a Steam sale to go like 80% off and then sell like 5,000 copies maybe or 8,000 copies in that month, like ride it like that. Because I really feel like the Humble thing is kind of like, depending on the game, it's kind of like you're saying, I'm done. Like, it's the cap. I'm taking all of my proceeds on this game, and we're ending them here with, like, a big payday, maybe.
The more we look at this, the more I wonder if that is really the case, though. I think that probably is true for a few of the games that show up in the bundles, but looking at the bigger names, I doubt we could really make a good inference about their, like, success after being included in a bundle. I mean, there's a few that have even been in multiple bundles. I mean, Thomas Was Alone, I think, has shown up in quite a few, and then Little Inferno, I think, has made a couple of repeat appearances, and Super Meat Boy. But, of course, those are the outliers as well. There's going to be the games that just sell no matter what because they're the games they are, like Super Meat Boy, for example. But I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily damning, especially now. I think there's probably a few developers who still look at Humble like just a good promotional opportunity. It's just like sort of any other sale to them, maybe.
Yeah, no, I don't necessarily disagree that it's good promotion. I don't know. I worry, especially with how often I see developers tweet about like resellers, that it's just like, you're flooding the market with like 1,000, not 1,000 copies, probably like 200,000 copies of your game at a really, really cheap price that I think could deflate your ability to get value from the game in the future. But that's not to say that the Humble Bundle is anti-business or anything like that. It's just like, I think you have to keep in mind when you do it that it has to be the right time, maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't know. Let's just take a look at a game. Does anyone have like the last Humble bundle up, like the number 14? What were the games in that?
That was,
I got you.
You got it?
I got you. Yeah.
So there's like Pixel Piracy or something in that.
Pixel Piracy is up there.
Pixel Piracy right now, if someone wants to look it up on Steam, like I'm on G2A right now.
It is worth noting, too, that this Humble Bundle 14 did only again, relatively speaking, but it only sold 163,000 packages, so...
Yeah. So, yeah, Pixel Piracy's in it on Epic.
How much is Pixel Piracy on Steam right now?
Let's find out.
Because
right now...
Probably $10?
On G2A, you can get copies for 82 cents, 83 cents, 85 cents, 92 cents, 96 cents, $1, $1.13,
Pixel Piracy...
$1.14.
Okay, Pixel Piracy, $9.99 on Steam.
Yeah, like, I wonder how many of these codes... We all know that a lot of them come through bullshit like, people scamming as if they're
resellers,
YouTubers. and emailing developers and trying to trick them into giving them codes. But I wonder how many of these come from like the Humble store and stuff like that during bundles. Because as far as I know, you don't have to link your Humble account to your Steam in order to authorize the codes to actually work. I hope I'm not talking out of my ass there. But
I don't think so. You have to have your email linked, though.
But can't you just type that Steam code in?
It's a copy-paste Steam code.
Well, that used to be the case, but I think I know for sure they changed it, and then they might have changed it back.
Well, I just gave away one of the games from the bundles on Twitter.
And that gave you a code for it?
It works.
Yeah, there's a button that says Get Steam Code and just gives you a code.
Just does the code again. Okay,
so I took one of the games I already had and I gave it away on Twitter.
No, they used to have, though. They changed it almost universally for Humble for a little while there. They changed it so you had to activate Steam through the Humble website, and then you could only charge it, or you could only associate it with your account. You never got a code for anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. There was another one in there, like the Swapper was in there, I think.
Nope, the Swapper's not in this one. It's Super Splatters.
Super Splatters.
I was looking at a game that, released very recently.
The most recent ones are Pixel Piracy, Unepic, and Contraption Maker. Those are the...
Well, Super Splatters has it's probably $15 on Steam if I remember, and it has 48 cents, 48 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, 50 cents, $1. Like
Super Splatters, $10.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that worries me about putting your stuff in a bundle. But like again, you're probably making mad money when the bundle payout comes, but it might kind of hamstring you in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that seems like it is the case. I don't know. Let's just test like a control game then, just to see comparatively what sort of prices we got going.
Maybe
on.
like Metal Gear Solid 5.
Sure, yeah.
Which is not an indie game, so maybe it's not the best control game. But
why don't you try Binding? Oh wait, no, Binding of Isaac's not on here.
Let's try out Rocket League. See how Rocket League's doing.
Yeah, see if we can get Rocket League. How much you can get on G2A.
Mm-hmm. This is not an advertisement for G2A. Right?
It's just the most.
It's kind of, in
metric.
a way, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Rocket League is what, $30?
$20?
It got to be 20.
Yeah.
You can look it up.
Rocket League is $20.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, on G2A, $15, $16.
Okay, so yeah, that's maybe indicative of the amount of key saturation that the Humble Bundle may generate. I would wager that would hold up in further testing.
I wonder if you go like way back to something that's been in like 12 Humble Bundles and just see if it's like a cent.
So try Super Meat Boy.
Yeah.
And we'll take a look.
If Super Meat Boy's not selling for like 25 cents for like hundreds of copies.
Super Meat Boy is still $15 on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
Super Meat Boy is like $2 on G2A.
Okay.
So it's not like free. That's really weird that Braid is like literally the exact same price. And
Braid is $15 exactly on Steam.
Look at like what are the other ones that have been in there?
VVVVV was another one that was on.
Yeah.
But that game's like $2 normally or something anyway.
It's $5.
That's like 85 cents on G2A.
I mean, a lot of these games, admittedly, no one's really buying at full price anymore. They're going to be waiting for like the 85% off sales. But at any rate, for Humble in particular, I am more interested in this monthly offering that they've got going on too.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because looking just at their website, you can see like right at the top, they've got Humble Bundle, Weekly Bundle, Books Bundle, Mobile Bundle, Humble Store, and then Humble Monthly. So obviously the saturation exists, but Humble Monthly in particular, I don't know. I don't think I'm on board with this. $12 a month for a blind pick of a game that you have to assume is going to be worth more than $12. It's not like they're going to have you subscribe for $12 a month and then give you copies of Super Meat Boy every month. But yeah, I don't like the idea in general.
Do you have a PS4?
No.
Well, like to me, this is like the same thing as PS Plus, which is typically like really good value most of the time. The same thing as
Gold does the same thing.
Games with Gold does the same thing. So I'm not surprised to see Humble move into space. But
with those, you're not really. I mean, PlayStation Plus, I think just one of the benefits is getting those games on a regular basis. But PlayStation Plus is inherently a broader service than that. With Humble Monthly, it seems, if I'm reading things correctly, it's like, hey, we're Humble. You know Humble. Give us some money every month and we'll give you a good game that we've selected for you. And that's it. That's the whole offering. And it's also, of course, donating to charity, which is the drive behind Humble in the first place. It's primarily about the charities. And they've done great work, by the way, not to, diminish the value of Humble for the past 40 minutes or so by saying that they haven't really done anything, because they've been doing extremely good things for a lot of people. But this is not my favorite thing I've ever seen them do.
Did you subscribe to it?
I did not. I maybe should, just to try it out. To see how things go. I might do it. Yeah. Just for the test of it. What do you guys think?
I feel like if you're going to do it, this month is probably a good time to do it, because they're going to have to dazzle right out of the gate. I think if they come out and they're like, we have this game nobody knows, people are going to be like, I'm not subscribing to this.
If it's Metal Gear Solid 5, then I'm sold.
What is it? You're getting Grimrock 2, you said.
Yeah, if you sign up for it, the first game is not Legend of Grimrock 2. You just get Legend of Grimrock 2 for signing up for the service. But then you're going to get another game come November 6th that no one knows about. It's a mystery. It's weird.
Digitally, that seems a little strange to me. Yeah. What if it comes out and I own them all?
Well, that's the risk we run as doing what we do, right?
I guess so, but
because we own, if we don't, we could probably type the game in our email and see the code we missed.
Yeah.
I just feel like unless there's something I'm missing here that's blatantly obvious, it's just not a good sell. It's very hard to bite on.
I don't know though. $12 a month for a bundle is a pretty good deal. If it's they're selling it as this is the premium Humble service.
I don't think we can make proper judgment until we see what the first month is going to end up being.
Yeah, that's fair.
For me, the exciting part of Indie Box is the boxed collectible stuff that comes with it. So if this is only going to be digital games, they do need to blow me away with 3 or 4 fantastic games. But we can't say it sucks or it's great until we see what those games are.
Yep. Well, let us know what you think about how things are going with Humble down in whatever feedback box you so choose. This is actually kind of weird.
Do it on Nick's.
Like a continuation off of Ryan's screen somehow. I've got it perfectly set up so I can see his arm coming off on my screen, but only I can see it. I'm just describing my own enjoyment of this day. Next on our list, here's something interesting, Mathis.
All right, you and me, baby.
You heard about this HL3.txt that popped up?
Why? No, I haven't. Actually, yes, I have. But pretend I have not.
Oh, please do. Yeah, indulge me.
Yeah, Battle of Zendikar.
We only ever do.
Are you talking about Magic the Gathering?
No, we're talking about HL3.txt.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
You read all about this?
Yes.
Yeah. I sort of.
Of course you followed it.
Theories and all right. So for those who don't know, HL3.txt was a mistakenly published text file.
Sure, it was.
In the Dota 2 recent update that talks a little bit about NPC programming and whatnot, and people are like, it doesn't say Half-Life, but it's HL3.txt and it's from Valve, and it's talking about NPCs and how one NPC isn't allowed to talk if an NPC on a computer nearby is talking. So people are talking about, oh god, it's probably Half-Life 3. It's talking about Half-Life 3. The exciting thing and why people are excited about it is so there are theories that it's coming out in November. That's the theory, right? But the people are excited because Valve has explicitly said if they release Half-Life 3, they will not go down the traditional avenues of marketing because the internet has kind of done its job for them. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't put it past Valve to be this viral marketing.
Let me translate that real quick. If we release Half-Life 3, we don't have to spend a goddamn penny on advertising.
Exactly. All they need to do is put this little HL3.txt file accidentally in one of their other games. The internet blows up, and I would love to see Valve just release Half-Life 3 in November without any fanfare and just show up on Steam. But, of course, people, this is theories running wild because HL3.txt showed up. That's all that happened, but we'll see.
They wanted to give a little bit more credibility to this one, and I can kind of see it, but also, of course, there's so many ways to make the message convoluted and sort of spin it in a way that makes it sound like, Half-Life 3 is part of my waffles, and it makes perfect sense because you can sculpt them around and it makes it 3. Perfect. That's the equivalent of HL3.txt. But what I did want to do today for funsies is Half-Life 3, it'll come out. I think it'll come out. Eventually, I think it'll come out. It'll exist, and people will play it, and then we'll all
come out. I think it's a great title to release with their VR system when that comes.
But what we want to do here, so this is our fun little way of turning another Half-Life 3 news story into maybe something a little bit more manageable. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to play a little game. We're going to start with Ryan because he's clearly just overly enthused about it. What is your ideal and or best Half-Life 3 release scenario?
I don't know. Just fucking they announce it and then they make it and it comes out.
You just want it to happen. You know
what do I like? I don't get. I'm past the point, I guess, or I shouldn't say past the point because it implies that I've like elevated myself above it, which is not right. However, I just don't care about like creative marketing. Like I don't give a shit. I hope the game's good, but like they're like, check it out. We put out the game. Just we didn't have any marketing at all, and we just came out with it. I'm not going to be like, good for you, Val. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Do what you want to do. I don't care. Just come out with a game where don't like. I don't. They can keep teasing it. That's fine. Like that doesn't bother me. But
man,
like
this isn't just a normal game anymore.
It is. It is for me.
No, it's special.
How much of the, not that the Half-Life series is bad or not a masterpiece, but how much of the fandom about it is about the games, and how much of it is about the culture of it at this point? That is just like Half-Life 3, Half-Life LOL, right? Like Half-Life 3, I'll propose to you when Half-Life 3 comes out. Yeah, maybe when Half-Life 3 comes out, I'll do that. Like, it's like I'm trying to think of a movie that's like that. It was like Avatar was before Avatar came out. James Cameron had been working on it for like 30 years or something like that. Then it comes out and you're like, yeah, it's okay. Like I just don't care.
James Cameron wasn't releasing AVA.txt in the director's commentary of the Titanic.
That's Valve though. Valve loves that ARG shit, like the Super Potato Portal game or whatever they did when Portal 2 was coming out. They know how to like whip people into a frenzy. What you do is you give them like cryptic information that can be decoded to get a pointer to the next clue of cryptic information that can be decoded to get to
fun though.
It is, but I don't care. Like, and that's not me being cynical. It's more just like, just come out with a game, and if it's great, that's awesome. But I'm not gonna, I guess I don't care about the game's business in that sense. Like, you could talk about how Sega was like, the Saturn is on store shelves now, and then it bombed because people were like, well, I don't have like $300 saved up to buy a Sega Saturn right now. And pointed that maybe as a counterexample, but mostly I'm just like, I can't get excited about it. Because there's no end to it. It's like it's putting you in a permanent state of like anticipation for a game that we don't know exists, and maybe some people have fun with that. I don't really have fun with that.
Your mouth says you're not excited about it, but I see that twinkle in your eye. That means
I am more excited for dinner tonight than I am at the idea of a Half-Life 3 game. But if Half-Life 3 ends up being awesome, that's also cool. I have nothing against it.
You're gonna be leading the charge in the ARG department, man.
It's actually ARGs I find really cool, but I'm never invested in them.
Release your next Isaac episode without any fanfare. See what happens.
They're all released without any fanfare, as far as I'm concerned.
That was the joke.
Okay. I don't know. Like, go ahead, you guys.
The idea of Valve being really into the ARGs, though, is quite valid. You guys remember what they did about Portal 2?
The potato games.
Not necessarily even that, but there was the idea of announcing Portal 2 beforehand that, was ridiculous. So they patched the first Portal, and there was the big patch that everybody knows about how at the end, spoiler alert if you haven't played Portal, but at the end, Shell is outside, and the first ending, she just is laying down there.
Yeah.
But then after they patched it, they have the bot that comes out and drags her and says, thank you for assuming the party position or whatever it is, and brings her back into the building, which obviously sets up Portal 2. But before that even happened, there was another smaller patch, and there was a line in the patch notes that said something very vague and subtle. It was just something like, the radios have been retuned to meet certain FCC standards or something like that, which you wouldn't read too much into, except that it stands out kind of in the midst of all these patch notes that actually relate to the game. So naturally people got curious. And it turned out that every single radio in Portal was now changed to where if you brought it to a certain place, it would play Morse code. And then that Morse code turned into a message, and then that message turned into something even more ridiculous. I'm paraphrasing like this entire situation, but eventually I believe the Morse code turned into messages that turned into a phone number that you didn't call, but you had to send a fax to or get a fax from, and then that fax had information about Portal 2. So Valve loves this shit. Valve is really, really into this shit, which is why things like HL3.txt actually have some sort of significance, because you don't look past this anymore. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that like every single thing that is blown out of proportion up to this point is probably related in some way or another that people haven't figured out yet.
It has significance only, and it's not me being like, again, I'm gonna do my best not to be a hardened senior citizen about this shit. It's just like,
old man.
It only has significance if you actually care about the marketing of the game. Maybe because of my unique circumstances, having never finished Half-Life 1 or 2, I'm exempt from it.
Get out of here, go away.
But like, I can't care. Even if Valve, like, someone like poured through the code and then like ran it through like a different compiler, and then all of a sudden it's like, this is Half-Life 3. I'd be like, that was a really cool way to like come out with the game or come out with an announcement. But I still don't care until the game is out.
That's fair.
You never played through Half-Life 2. That hurts.
That's got to be after you fall in New Vegas, man. You got to do Half-Life 2.
I remember getting Half-Life 2 when it launched. But yeah, I'd be excited. Now, I mean, a lot of it is I'm curious. So the reason Half-Life 2 was so successful back then is because it did so many things that no first-person shooter had done before.
Right.
Like telling a story in front of you without cutscenes and like characters. It did a lot. Like being able to show emotion on a character's face was still very new at that point, and all that stuff was cool. All that stuff is
even the physics were kind of revolutionary.
Yeah,
at that
the
point.
physics and puzzling and the first-person platforming puzzles. All that stuff was very, very new. All that stuff is common nowadays. So is Half-Life 3 going to be as revolutionary as Half-Life 2 was, or is it just going to be a very good first-person shooter? That's up in the air.
Does it even exist?
Oh, shit. But
the are they even working on it argument now, unfortunately, has to come into light, too.
But if it does release, are people going to be overall disappointed if it ends up just being a really good first-person shooter?
It's almost impossible for this game to live up to the hype.
I agree.
And that's not fair necessarily to Valve, although they are hyping it up and obviously benefit from it, because it's mostly just been this like self-perpetuating joke on the internet for like 8 years of like, when is Half-Life 3 coming? So, I mean, I feel like there's no way you could possibly live up to expectations, but...
So Mathis, then, what is your ideal Half-Life 3 launch scenario?
I would love them to just release it.
Again,
I would love the idea of just not doing anything and just showing
one day
up
you
on
just
Steam.
want it to show up.
Yeah, like you pop open Steam and it's like Half-Life 3 now available, and I would love to see everybody freak the fuck out.
Steam would go down. Steam would go down for 12
it would be down.
hours.
Yeah, it would be down.
And then no one would believe everyone would think it'd be like another ARG where Steam is pretending to go down and they had like a shred of an announcement that said Half-Life 3 was up.
I guess I'm way more interested in the ARG than I am in the actual game until the game comes out. Like, the idea of this, like, an ARG is basically a game that is just developed that runs outside of the game. The fact that people are actually, like, cooperating across the world to accomplish this inane shit, to get, like, incremental progress towards some kind of marketing announcement, that's really interesting to me, and I'll follow that shit. Like, you know, some guy, like, one of us lives in Nevada, you've got to go to these GPS locations right now and dig a hole, and they're like, all right, I guess I'm the chosen one.
That would be incredible.
That's the kind of shit that happened. Was it for like Halo 2 or something? There was like phone booths that they had like GPS locations for that they decoded, and then people would like go to the phone booths at the time listed, and then someone would call them and be like, you can play as the elites now. And they'd be like, whoa! I gotta get back to game FAQs right now. Like, they gotta know this shit. But there's an energy sword. What?
That's all it is. It's like,
who is
there's an
this?
energy sword. Click.
Man, I like what you've unintentionally put into my head now, because this is now my ideal Half-Life 3 release scenario.
Okay.
And so this scenario in my playing out of it in my head has actually been happening for the past 3 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Valve has been calling one person a month from every country that has gone on record as purchasing a copy of Half-Life 2.
All right.
Has called one of those people and said, "We have a job for you. We need you to go to Turkmenistan or something. They'll pick a place. We need you to go there, and we need you to find Half-Life 3." And that's where they leave it off. And they hang up. And then those people are tasked with doing it. And if I was one of those people, I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, I would just be like, who the fuck just called me?
Yeah, I'd just leave it at that. But eventually, there's going to be one person who responds to the call to action, goes to Turkmenistan, and finds Half-Life 3.
Every single person goes to Turkmenistan, and they're overflooded by people.
Yeah. I mean, Valve certainly didn't email me before the podcast began to, give a little hint as to where that location is.
It's all part of it.
Yeah. No, I kind of like how crazy it's gotten. I look at this. Half-Life 3 has become more than Half-Life 3, whether you like it or not. Half-Life 3 has become, this is such an integral part of silly, stupid PC gamer lingo that it's not just like, oh, I hope it's a good game anymore. It's like, oh, I wonder what will happen with this, if anything. Because now it can't be, oh, it's just a good game anymore. And Valve is sort of in that mindset too. And I think that's sort of what, I mean, this has been touched on recently too, but it's sort of what is keeping them from really even wanting to push it out the door at all or develop it much less, is the fact that it's terrifying. It is such a significant part of the gaming space that they have to do something crazy with it in order to even come close to what the expectation is.
I just want the story to continue.
Yeah,
That's all
I honestly
about.
do too. Actually, that's almost entirely why I want the third one, is because
I played both those episodes, and the way it left off, I was like, I hate you so much.
yeah. Does anyone not know? People have to know.
Ryan
Right?
doesn't know.
doesn't know. Ryan has no idea. So I guess we can't say anything.
You can't make me care. Like, it sounds rude. I'm not being dismissive towards Half-Life. It's just like it has no power over me.
Yes, you are.
You hate it.
No, that's just the way they left off was basically like, without saying, they killed off a major character and left it on the biggest cliffhanger of all time. And now we've been waiting for I've been waiting for the story to continue since then, and it's been fucking years. So
Yeah. Weird.
we'll see.
I feel it's like Austin Powers 4 for me.
Fuck.
Those are the exact same thing.
Austin Powers is a terrible movie.
That is absolutely false. Goldmember is a terrible movie.
Austin Powers is pretty good.
I can't get wrapped up in it because it could be another 4 years before it comes out. I don't gain anything by being first off, I'm not excited. I could probably force myself to be excited, but what's the point? Like, maybe I'll get excited when it's like actually existing and coming out. If it comes out on Steam tomorrow, I probably just will not make a rush to play it at all. Like, I wouldn't clear my schedule to play it unless someone told me it was amazing. But I don't know. I look forward to the next 5 years of talking about it as if it exists, and that's that, I guess.
Half-Life 3.
Half-Life, we just had a 30-minute discussion about a text file.
We did. We're good at that.
That's how everybody. That's how bad we all want it.
Well, let's talk about a game that exists. It's one that we all really like, actually. It's called Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. It's a multiplayer game about disarming bombs. We've all had a pretty darn lengthy experience with it. We played it back in PAX East 2013, actually, I want to say. That was a while ago. We managed to check that one out on the Oculus. And the Oculus is sort of not really the appeal to it anymore. It's now just it's standing on its own as just a fun local multiplayer game. So describe this for me, Ryan.
All right, so Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is a asymmetrical multiplayer cooperative game where one person is looking at a bomb with various modules that they'll have to describe and then defuse, and another person, ideally in a separate room or at least not looking at the bomb, has a list of instructions that they have to relay to the bomb diffuser in order to successfully defuse the bomb and not explode. But it requires good communication and cooperation in order to do it, because the person defusing the bomb can't see the instructions and the person with the instructions can't see the bomb. Imagine putting together a piece of IKEA furniture where one of you was holding all of the tools and the modules, and one person was holding the instruction manual.
Mm-hmm. Mathis, have you been playing a lot of Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes?
I played a bunch with Ohm and Minx and Ritz. It was really fun. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, like you said. It's the initial selling point, it being the Oculus, and now that really isn't the point anymore. Now, I just know now that everybody who's played it and done a video on it is on some sort of list.
Yeah, like bombmanual.com/bomb.pdf.
Or looking up, like, pictures to make a thumbnail out of. Bomb, suitcase bomb, like, no, it's all terrible.
Yeah, this is probably the worst game to play in an airport, by the way, if you were ever wondering about that. Probably avoid that, although it would be hilarious if you were, like, on a laptop doing this sort of stuff. Just
rotating a bomb around, and like, oh! And then somebody sitting next to you just reading, like, off of an actual manual.
Oh, yes. I was going to say, like, people on a Skype call that are, like, yelling over at you, like, cut the red wire!
There's 4 wires, man. The timer's
You gotta
go! We got 5 minutes or I'm going to blow up!
I've been watching a few people actually play this at the top tier, the expert level players. Oh, man, it is fun to watch. I mean, of course, most games at the expert level are pretty interesting and entertaining to watch, but it is so cool to see, like, 5 or 6 people who all know what they're doing and have them, like, completely divvy it out. Like, everybody's got their own responsibilities, and they're just, like, a machine working. And even though they know so much about it, it's still very intense because there's all kinds of variables to it, too. So you'll have things like normal modules, like regular wires, for example. There will be a series of wires, and you have to figure out which one to cut based on the patterns and the colors and those sorts of things. But then you have, I don't remember what they're called. I think the needy modules or something like that.
Yeah.
They're the ones that you have to be constantly interacting with. So it'll tell you things like whether or not you want to vent gas into the room or whether or not you want to detonate the bomb. You just have to make sure that you're on top of your game with those things before the timer runs out on those particular parts. But there's a lot of really good variants to it and a lot of different ways to keep it interesting, even at the lower or even at the higher stages.
And it's what it seems like right now when you boot up the game and ask you to put in the manual code. So there's hopefully going to be, right now there's only one manual, but hopefully there's going to be more than one manual, which would mean more than one type of bomb puzzle that you're going to be dealing with. Because right now it's like maybe like a group of 7 or 8 different puzzles that can be randomly placed, and each one of those puzzles is randomly generated to a certain degree.
Right.
But it's all one manual right now, 23 pages. But since when you open the game, it's like, what manual are you using? Maybe that means we will see more puzzles, more bombs, more manuals, which could add a ton of replayability and a ton of variety to a game that's already pretty varied and pretty replayable.
Mm-hmm.
Even beyond that, if you just like maybe once a month, like scramble the puzzle solutions, then so instead of like if you just change the logic, then it's not like, oh, you've got like one black wire, I know you cut the 3rd wire. Then it's like they changed the logic of the bombs, so you actually still have to communicate and keep the spirit of the game in it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, definitely a good core established, though. I mean, like, just the ability to just develop a different module and then add that to the game, which is going to change things so dramatically based on that alone, which is really interesting. But, yeah, it's so much fun. I loved it back when I was checking it out so long ago, and it's still just, like, it's a great time. Playing it by yourself is actually kind of interesting, too. I don't know if you guys have tried that before.
I did for the very first bomb just to get it out of the way and unlock free play. But other than that,
it's basically impossible. I could barely get through like 1 or 2 modules just playing by myself for the first few bombs, but it is crazy. I love it. We all love it. I think highly recommended.
I'm surprised at how well it's translated to like a non-VR setting.
Yeah.
Like it really is. People talk about like streamer bait and YouTube bait. Like usually like scare cam horror shit with a bunch of jump scares.
Yeah.
This is like the coolest version of streamer bait I think I've seen in a long time, where it's the perfect game to just play on Skype, and you never would have expected something like that. Like that's what we were always talking about, is after we play, we'd be like, wow, that's a really cool idea. I hope VR sells so people can play this or something, but it actually is translated really, really well to Steam. And, you know, I should probably just disclose that I'm like friends with the developers, so we're, you know, possibly our opinion is a little bit biased, and we got kind of exclusive previews of it before it really even existed, which is mostly just humble bragging, I guess. But
you just wanted to say that.
we're friends with these guys, and they're doing pretty well now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm really happy to see it for them, because I know that they probably had a lot of question marks of like, well, we're tied to this hardware that like isn't out yet for retail.
Right.
So I'm really happy that it's translated on Steam, and I'm not surprised that it's kind of become so viral, because it really is like really, really watchable.
Speaking of gratifying ourselves with the closeness we have to these people, I remember actually back at that PAX being so excited and also kind of inebriated at a bar. We were just talking about this game, and I feel validated because I was so sure that this was going to be a hit. And I was right, and I was really drunk when I said that, but it was so goddamn clairvoyant of me. Yeah, I mean, you only need one person to have a copy of the game, kind of like the Jackbox Party Pack, if you've ever played those sorts of games. Kind of nice to just have one person be the one responsible for the bomb side of things, unless you, of course, want to see that for yourself. So that's nice there as well. As far as, like, criticisms for it, I'm just trying to think, like, what I would prefer for certain things. I think complicated wires are bullshit, so if you just get rid of those.
Yeah, they're pretty annoying.
You can't play it single player, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty much. But more or less, yeah, it's a good time. I really enjoy it.
Also, if you're a piece of shit and don't play it right, and have, you know, the ability to look at the instructions, and the person with the instructions to look at the bomb, you're breaking the spirit of the game, and you're not experiencing it properly.
Yeah.
You garbage man.
Yeah, stop being garbage.
That's like Googling the answers in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something like that. It doesn't make you smart.
Hey, but they won.
You can't do it like on the show. It's like, hold on.
I mean, that would make Millionaire a lot less interesting if they were just on their phones the entire time. Keep talking, nobody explodes. It is $15. No, it's not going to be on sale for 6 months, by the way. So, in case you were waiting for the inside scoop on that, that's because I follow Ben Kane on Twitter. That's not because we're personal friends or anything. But that's just what they said. So there you go, $15. Keep talking, and nobody explodes. We like it.
It's a good game.
Cool.
And now it's time for everybody's favorite segment. It's Ask Roundtable, the part of the show where you send in your questions, and we do our best to not make fun of them and also answer them when time permits. And this question is coming in from James. James wants to know... Oh, that is the total wrong one. All right, well, we're just going to go ahead and read the question from over here, because that's why I have the fail-safe. James wants to know, when was the first time you thought, oh, I shouldn't say that, it will start a huge argument? Do you think being in the public eye somewhat has changed how vocal you are on issues in your everyday life? Mathis.
I think every time I make a joke.
Yeah?
I probably shouldn't have said that.
Could have fooled me.
Because then I keep doing it over and over again.
Yeah?
I mean, I don't remember the first time that I thought that. I know I have thought that, and most of the time I'm right. You'll go in the comment section like, oh, yeah, no, there they are. They're bitching about whatever. The broader question of, has that made me rethink about being vocal about anything? Yeah, I think it has, and I think we'll probably all say the same thing. Like, yeah, it's definitely made us rethink or be more cautious about saying things, because you are a public figure. I mean, me having, 10,000 followers on Twitter, Ryan having, 70,000, 80,000?
Like that, yeah.
And Baer, you have, 12, 13,000?
I think I have 180, actually.
Oh, wow. You know, but... But yeah, there are people that will take things out of context or take things you said and then bring them up 6 months later. It does make you rethink a lot of the things you're going to say. Now, granted, most of us would just spew garbage nonsense anyway, and we're kind of lucky that that's what we do. But there have been a few times.
Jeez, try not to group us all into that garbage nonsense.
But yeah, absolutely, because there are people listening, and you don't know how old those people are, you don't know who those people are, and you don't want to say anything that's going to either come back and bite you in the ass or be unnecessarily inflammatory, whatever.
That you don't know how old they are comment, that actually is the one that resonates with me the most. That's one I have to always remind myself of every single day, is I don't know how old this person is. I don't know what their upbringing is. I don't know what they've been around all their lives. So every proclivity I had toward wanting to argue with someone based off of how I usually interpret people's lifestyles be, because like normally when I'm talking to somebody, I have a good idea of what they've been around for the majority of their life because they're someone that I've interacted with semi-regularly. But now I've got a lot of complete strangers that have totally different upbringings and totally different histories that would make a huge difference in a conversation.
I think when I first started to become semi-popular on YouTube, it was kind of like this self-inflating thing where you're like, I knew people should care about what I have to say. I've known it for years, right? And now finally I have this position. So for a while I would get like invested in all the controversies, or at least I'd like throw my 2 cents in. I'd be like, I read the headline on this issue, and here's my thoughts is this. And then, over the past couple of years, I've mostly realized that it largely just leads to me spending like a lot of time getting in arguments on the internet.
Yeah.
So now I stay away from that shit, and I find my mental health is like a lot better for it. And I also have kind of come to the conclusion that like nobody should give a shit what I have to say unless it's on the subject of video games. So when people are like, who are you voting for? I'm like, you should not care at all. I'm now astute enough to know not to answer the question anyway, but you are looking for love in all the wrong places here. Like, I play video games on the internet. You don't need to know how I feel about politics or anything like that. For a couple of reasons. One of which is that I'm, for all intents and purposes, an idiot about stuff like that. The other one is that it just gives people
like
a
that
reason.
nod. You sure are.
True.
We and I agree in that we are similar in that way. Continue.
Yeah, but the second thing is that, what I do is I make videos about video games. And if I were to start getting political, not that I do that in my home life at all either, but if I would start to get political, that would just give some people a reason to not watch my shit, and some people like a greater reason to be invested in me as a person, which is kind of dishonest to the product in that, like, I mostly just want you to watch my videos if you enjoy them.
Right.
So, like, I don't really care what your political views are, as long as you're not, like, I guess a literal Nazi. It's like, if that's the case, I'm not going to be too worried about offending a literal Nazi who believes that Hitler did nothing wrong. And I apologize if that offends you, but at the same time, that's pretty much like where my line draws. I don't care if you're, Republican, Democrats, liberal, conservative, Green Party, communist. I couldn't give a shit because I make videos on the internet, so... Like
I won't put you in too much of a spotlight to try to make a decision on it, but do you remember if there was a particular turning point for you where you decided this is totally not worth the trouble?
Yeah, like there was, maybe this isn't the turning point, but there was like the Dead Island Riptide had like that promo at the start of 2013 where, just before the game came out, where they were selling like a hacked up female torso.
That. Yeah, oh my god.
And I was like, I don't see what's so weird about it. Like in horror movies, like sex and violence are conflated all the time. And I was like arguing like all day. And then I was like, you know what? First off, I don't know what I'm talking about. Like I read the headline and then was like, here's my opinion based on like all the experience that I have with sex and violence, which is zero basically, right? But and then like I argued about it for like hours, and I was like, you know what, this is not worth it. I'm not in like high school or college anymore. Right. I'm not in the basement with my friends. Like you don't
have an hour free period to go into the library and argue with somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to do that anymore. And it's not just that it's potentially damaging as like a brand or a business or whatever. It's mostly like I don't want to spend my time doing that anymore. I don't care about being right. Like if someone is like really angry at me and thinks that I'm wrong, I'm just like, all right, dude. It's like, when you try to like pick up a child and they just go completely limp and you like can't lift them anywhere.
You're just like, all right,
that's now me in an argument basically. They're like, whoa, no, let me argue with you because I got to prove my point. And I'm like, basically like you're not gonna change my opinion and I'm not gonna argue. But people think like there's this this intellectual responsibility of like if someone comes to you with an argument, you have to respond because that's what smart people do is they argue with one another. And the answer to that question is smart people knock out the rent and then they do the shit that they want to do in the rest of their day. And if you want to do that, that's completely acceptable. But people are under no obligation to respond to it, I guess.
I like that as a motivational poster. Smart people knock out their rent.
Smart people knock out the rent. Yeah.
Fuck the rest. Mathis, what was your turning point?
I can't honestly remember when my turning point was. It probably was similar to Ryan, maybe not on Twitter, but I used to respond to people arguing in my comment section. And I used to have these long things of like, here's why you're wrong, here's why you're wrong. And it used to bother me because I always saw everything as such a personal attack against me. And I would always rise to my own defense and be like, here's why you're wrong, blah, 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 blah,
to be
blah,
fair,
blah,
it
blah.
is often a personal attack against you. It's
But,
not like that's, it's not like that's
correct,
unwarranted.
But I always felt it my need or my duty to defend myself, whether what I said was a joke and they just didn't understand it was a joke, or they just don't like what I'm doing or don't like how I commentate or don't like the game I'm playing. I was like, oh, I have, X number of videos. Go watch those. Or why are you here? Go do this. Or I'm right because this. Eventually that got so stressful. And it's still stressful to read those comments every once in a while. There was a comment the other day that really bothered me. It was so dumb, and I didn't respond to it. But I used to respond to those, and it's super stressful. And now most of the time people ask, why don't you read your comments anymore? I still read them, but not like before, because I used to just let that shit get to me. And
the comments also, I think you learn they're not really for you.
They're not. No,
That's
not.
a good point.
They're for other people to talk about you. And it's not like wrong.
You're not supposed to be there. Actually, you're out of line and going down there and replying.
It's like
to those people.
when your teacher leaves for lunch, but they're like the class starts talking about it. It's like the teacher was listening. That'd be a betrayal, right?
I'd so much rather just read the comment, spend 5 minutes being like, calming myself down, and then going out my day and being better than spending 3 hours arguing with this guy, refreshing, waiting for him to reply so I can go and reply back to him, knowing that we're not going to change each other's views. And there's no point in it. I mean, just as an example, somebody commented, and this is not a bad thing, but I talked about we're in the Blood Bowl League, and somebody said that I was talking about Dodgers dwarf team that were named after anime characters. We were making like jokes, and it was funny. And somebody said, "Why does that Mathis guy talk about Dodger like such a creep?" And I was like, that bothered me for like 5 minutes. And I was like, I could respond to him and be like, "What are you talking about?" Or I can just let this go away, ignore the comment, and move on. Mm-hmm. And doing that is so much more healthy than arguing with somebody like I used to do. And the bigger you get, especially on YouTube and Twitch, the more often you're going to see those comments, and the more you have to start to turn your brain off to those things, because there's no point in arguing. They're never going to admit they're wrong, and you just have to accept that and move on.
And the more you do it, the easier it gets too.
It does get easier. Every once in a while, there's one that'll just be like, yeah, and you're just like, okay, just walk away. But it does get easier to just walk away from them. What about you, Baer?
So, preface, I've said a lot of dumb shit on Twitter, like some really fucking stupid shit. So I am in no way vindicated of any sort of like responsibility to having dumb conversations in public mediums, but there was one turning point that definitely made me change my entire attitude toward voicing any sort of opinion or getting in any sort of argument. So I played Spelunky a lot back when it was out on the PC, and there was somebody that made a mod for it that turned it into a sort of Metroid-style game.
I remember you doing that, actually.
Yeah, it was Joey Fortrack, actually. I even remember his name. He was the one that...
Oh, God, I know what you're about to say. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, so... so that got picked up a lot. A lot of different news sources shared it. I think Kotaku posted something about it. Polygon shared the video. So the video got spread around a lot. And, of course, with that comes a lot of shitty people. And I, being the stalwart saint that I was, decided, you know what? I'm not going to let this just be the regular runaround of shitty commenters that get to come in here and be dumb. I'm going to set them straight. So I spent a good while that day First of all, I had plans that day. They were all no more. I got no work done that evening. But I spent like so much time going through the comments on my video, going to every single news source, and just trying to like correct people's shittiness. And a lot of it was due to the fact that I didn't really play Metroid, so I didn't really understand a lot of the Metroid references. But also, I didn't ask for the Metroid mod. Somebody just gave it to me, and they wanted me to play it. So I was like, okay, sure.
I remember that, and seeing people on Twitter that I knew and had followed for their work be like, wow, like, why give the Metroid mod to the guy who doesn't know Metroid? And these people had been, like, huge advocates of, like, promoting safe spaces and stuff like that, and then they're just like, what, fuck this dude. I'm like, no, you're being kind of a hypocrite right now.
Yeah, I got a lot of that. But there was one guy in particular that actually made me kind of turn around and reevaluate why I was doing what I was doing. And it was in the Kotaku comments section. I don't remember his name or anything like that, but it was just this one guy that was commenting on my voice and how I sounded like so completely unnatural, and I was obviously faking everything. I was just trying to be, I'm putting on a show. Hello, my name is Baer Taffy. And I was just like, no, man, that's just how I talk. Sorry if you don't like it. And then he went on a fucking rant.
Oh, nice.
In a reply to me about how I clearly did not actually speak that way, and I was lying to him and to everyone. And
he fucking got you.
He did, yeah. He fucking nailed me. But he also pointed out, why am I going to the comments section of these websites to defend myself? Am I crazy?
That is actually a stupid.
And I thought about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. So all I said was yes, and then I left. And I never went back and looked at it again. And I never went to any of those stories. Like, I actually completely cut myself off from that in particular at that point, because I realized, oh, yeah, I am crazy. Why am I doing this? Why? This doesn't help me at all. None of what I've done, like, the entire day is benefiting me in any way. In fact, I'm probably making some enemies by doing this. So I know now that if I ever get into that situation again, this is what I do.
Yes, leave. Just leave. Yes.
Just go
It's funny,
as far away from it as possible.
it's such an even mix of we don't know who's listening to us, / it's much better for our mental health to just ignore it because it stresses us out.
So yeah, that was definitely my turning point. And since then, I've done some stupid shit still because I don't know how to turn it off sometimes. But for the most part now, my two responses are either A, ignore it, or B, go, ha, you're silly, and just make fun of them, because that's equally effective.
I do the same. I either ignore them, or if it's on my comment section and it's extra inflammatory or extra mean, I just hide this user's comments.
Oh, dude, that
see you
is
later.
like, look, I know that there are a lot of people who hate shadow bans
No,
because of the fact that the person doesn't know that they're banned.
Oh, that's the best part.
But if someone's being like a super asshole,
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love it. Especially if I see someone being a super asshole across like 8 videos in a row.
Yes.
Then you shadow ban them, and then you just like, they're still wasting their time.
Yeah.
And they just think that nobody's. That's even better because it's like undermining their confidence. They think that nobody agrees with them.
Yeah.
And it's just, I wonder how much time collectively has been wasted.
so much easier to just be like, done, and
Because
they're
if
gone.
you ban them, there's always like an alt account that comes back and is like, whoa, can't take criticism, huh?
Yeah.
You fucking shithead, bald, piece of garbage, fucking can't take constructive criticism.
This is what you're reading somebody's post.
It's just
No.
like I'd say maybe like once every couple days there'll be one person who says something so mean and like hateful that I'm just like I'm sorry, dude. Like I gotta just shadow ban you. Goodbye. You're done.
Sorry.
Like I can't. But like one thing that always gets me is the minute you call a game or me or somebody autistic, I'm like, see you later. You're out.
Oh, yeah. Like,
you don't earn the right to talk on my channel anymore.
No, yeah, you've definitely got a short list of words that will immediately make you lose your ability to speak, basically.
At the same time, I think the bigger you get, you also realize that arguing on the internet is kind of like easy mode. Because if you ever jump in to defend yourself, like 10,000 people.
Oh, well, also,
Yeah, and they're like, fuck you, man. So, like, I try to be conscious of that power. And if somebody's just being, like, constructive, there's nothing wrong with that. If somebody's being an asshole, like Matt has said, occasionally I'll pop in and be like, Here's the formula. They're being a super asshole. You respond really diplomatically, but refute them, and then just let everybody else take care of them and be like, "How do you like it? How do you like it, shithead?" Right?
I'm really glad that I don't like command a legion of idiots. I don't think I can handle that responsibility.
That's not a good way to phrase it. But there is a responsibility that I think a lot of content creators just kind of like shrug off as not being their responsibility, which is that people care about what you think. So if you tell people to like do something or you go over the top on somebody, they're going to be motivated to do the same thing to that person. And it doesn't become like, it's just like, oh, I have a problem with this, I'm going to talk about it. You have to be conscious of the fact that like maybe 50,000 people are going to agree with you and then be motivated to do something as a result. And I do, I hate to see witch hunts because of content creators. That's why, like, even though as I've been going through this computer shit, I'm like, first off, I'm not infallible. Maybe this isn't AMD's fault. But I really don't want to, like, dot at AMD and be like, hey, can you guys help me? Because I know that it's going to be, like, 5,000 people are going to be like, fuck you, AMD.
You're ruining my life.
Yeah, and that's not the way that it should be, I think. But I see people do it all the time, and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe different strokes for different folks.
You're making me second guess my terminology. I do have to make that blanket statement there and say I'm not calling anyone an idiot. I'm just saying that happens sometimes.
10,000 people is an idiot.
Yeah,
that's just like a flock of geese. 10,000 people on the internet is one idiot, full of smart people, probably.
Exactly. Yeah, one person is smart. People are stupid. We all know that. Thank you for the question, though, James. It was certainly interesting. We appreciate it. And if you want to ask a question, you can send that over to roundtableyt@gmail.com, and we will get to it. Thank you very much for that, James. And now, normally, if you weren't staring deadpan at us for the entire last hour and a half or so, you would be here for Nick's Weird Games. I'm gonna do my best to offer a suitable substitute. It's Baer's Weird Games, this episode of the Roundtable Podcast, and I don't know how to set it off, so I'm just going to let you guys figure it out, and I'll be back in a minute and a half.
Baer's Weird Games in the form of Can't Feel My Face.
Oh, man. He's Canadian? I don't even know, I don't know half the words.
Me either.
I can't play weird games when I'm with Baer, because he's casual. Oh, he always brings the Xbox One when we want PS2. And he always brings the EA when we want the Japanese game from the 2002. And the song is by The Weeknd and it's on the radio. I hope Baer comes back with something that is probably not Halo.
That was
something
good.
like that, yeah.
That was actually fantastic in all the right ways.
I never knew what word I was going to say next until it had already come out of my mouth.
That's good. You missed it, man. It was great.
I heard a good portion of it. Yeah, I was impressed. I didn't know we were allowed to cover the recent stuff. I thought we always had to go back at least 10 or 15 years.
Nick's not here, so we got to switch it up.
All right. That's fair. All right, I got a game for you guys.
Yeah.
It's an original PlayStation game.
Okay, yeah.
PS1.
Crash Bandicoot.
Man.
Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex's Revenge.
Yeah, it's both of them, actually. We got the
Crash
dual
Bandicoot
pack. Crash 3 Warped. Hey, I know all of them, too. A legendary tale of betrayal and self-destruction. You ready for this? I'll give you the
Lamar Odom story.
Oh, come on, man.
Sometimes I forget that we record these and then they don't get posted for like 2 days.
Yeah.
I really hope he didn't die.
Yeah, that would be real bad.
That would make that joke really dark, and I didn't really mean for that to happen, and I apologize.
That's all right. The developers of this one are Contrail and Procyon.
Oh, good.
Okay. Both of which I'm pretty sure are defunct by now. Came out in 1998. Let me read you the back of the box here. Abuse derived from the greediness of man.
Oh, okay.
The powers of a magical creature betrayed. Will man realize his mistakes before irreparable damage is done? Armed with a magical sword and the will to survive, lead Vaughn and his cohorts to the redemption of man. Pursue a quest to save the world and discover a place where legends are born.
Final Fantasy IX. I honestly have no idea.
No idea?
This is weirder than like at least Nick stuff. I'm like, maybe.
No, man. I think this one. I think a few people will be on board. It was published by Sony Computer Entertainment in 1998. Sony Computer Entertainment.
So this is like 3 years after it's 1 year after Final Fantasy VII.
This game had a sequel that came out in 2001.
For the PS1?
For the PS1. Or no, sorry, for the PS2. Let me see if I can give you some other hints.
Is it Galerians?
Is not.
Galerians was a great game.
That was a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Shall I issue more hints, or do you wanna call it here?
More hints, maybe.
You got 3 main characters in the game, okay? So the first one was Vaughn, we mentioned him. Next was Noah, and then there's Gala.
God damn. No, I've got nothing, dude.
Nothing?
Magic Sword.
Magic Sword.
That throws me off. I don't know why.
Is it Soul Edge?
It is not Soul Edge. I'm looking up Contrail right now, actually, because I'm just curious.
Contrail.
Oh, they were an internal developer for Sony Computer Entertainment. They didn't even bring him back for the sequel to this game, but they did make Wild Arms 3.
Okay.
If that helps you. Also, Procyon, I don't even know if they're around anymore. Here's the... Oh, this is great. Anyone know what became of Contrail/Procyon? That's the #1 result on Google for Procyon. All right, here you go. Ready?
Okay.
That's not going to work. Here you go. Legend of Legaia.
No, I would never have gotten that.
Never would have gotten that, huh?
Nope. I recognize the game name, but that's the extent of it.
It's one of my
cover is awesome.
It is really
7
cool,
out of 10
it?
on IGN.
This is one of my favorite games on the PlayStation, man.
Is it a JRPG?
It is.
How could you tell?
So the,
I know, weird.
The back of the box might have given that away. The combat system was actually what was the coolest part of it. So it was a turn-based combat system where you would input commands. So it would be like high, low, left, and right. And then you would have to figure out arts or like combo moves based on just randomly inputting those commands and trying to figure out the moves that way. So it was really interesting. And I'm playing it again now because I never like to play new games. I have 5 games that I like, and I play those games over and over and over again.
Halos 2 through ODST.
And Legend of Legaia.
Yeah, Legend of Legaia.
Exactly. And Legend of Legaia 2 came out on the PS2 in 2001. It was also really good. I enjoyed it. But there you go.
Yeah, I bet.
There's Baer's Weird Games. It was between this and Katamari Damacy. Those are the 2 weirdest games that I own. So I really hope Nick gets back before the next episode. Otherwise, we're going to have a defunct segment here. But
I can go grab Madden, all right?
There you go. Yeah, we got
Madden
that.
16. Control a team of men.
We could do some Kate's Weird Games sometimes.
Oh, yeah. That would be
true.
crazy.
She's got all these, like, jank-ass JRPGs.
Jank-ass.
They're jank-ass to me. I don't understand them, but...
All right. Well... There it is. And that is our show for today for Roundtable. Thank you guys very much for joining us. There are changes in the works to the show. I don't know how much of it we're actually ready to announce and address right now, but do just expect that there will be some big adjustments being made to Roundtable. Yeah, very, very good adjustments. I think we're all on board with it. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So look forward to Roundtable getting a bit of an overhaul.
And if you're a patron supporter, I will obviously announce, but be on the lookout for changes to the tiers, probably the higher tiers more than anything.
Thank you very much for watching, though. Again, it's roundtableyt@gmail.com if you're interested in sending in a question, or if you just want to talk to us about something in particular, you can send it that way. iTunes is where you want to rate the show 5 stars, if you could kindly do that. Also, if you feel like leaving us a review, feel free to do so as well. Roundtablepodcast.reddit.com is where you want to go if you want to discuss any of the episodes or the most recent episode. And you can also follow us at RoundtablePC on Twitter, as well as following the Twitch channel, which you definitely want to do, is twitch.tv/RoundtablePodcast. And we want to thank our Patreon supporters at the $20 tier and above for this episode. That's going to be Max Alexander, Christopher Flagg, Positron, General Crunk, Jonathan Graham, Air Force Balls, David Bradley, Matt, Julian Avelsgaard, Kevin Birkland, Casey, Tom, Myth Scarab, Noel Ref, Mediocrities, Simph, Johannes Goldhan, Matthew Monahan, Zur, Adam Savage's Blowhole, Kevin Ran Out of Ideas Walker, Smurfette, Logan Ray, Justin Brizzlebrip, and Ignacio0891. Thank you guys very much for your continued support on the Roundtable Patreon, and thank you very much for watching this episode of the Roundtable Podcast. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Later.